Vincent Price's speeches were known for their wit, charm, and eloquence. He often reflected on his love for the arts, shared personal anecdotes, and emphasized the importance of creativity in life. With his distinctive voice and a touch of humor, Price made his speeches both engaging and memorable.
A commencement marks an important moment in time. Today we mark the end of your studies at Duke and the beginning of your lives as Duke alumni. Today's commencement ceremony also marks another significant point of inflection. This year, as we celebrate our university's centennial, we're also celebrating the 100th class to graduate from Duke. Perhaps you've noticed that many of our graduates are wearing blue robes today as a special symbol of this milestone. This wonderful alignment of two profound turning points, our centennial and your graduation today, is a moment both of inflection and a moment for reflection. It's an opportunity to reflect on all that we together have learned and achieved since Trinity College was transformed into our Duke University. And it's an opportunity to look ahead to the great promise, your great promise, as a generation called to lead in an uncertain world. Looking forward and looking back, I feel a sense of profound confidence that you are up for the challenge. Indeed, you've already seen and persevered through some unanticipated twists and turns in the road. Many of you saw your senior years of high school disrupted by the pandemic and missed out on your graduation then, and all of you have had to navigate several years of significant academic and social disruption. The undergraduate class of '24 arrived at Duke before COVID vaccines were available, at a time when masking and social distancing were our best tools for protecting each other, even though they were antithetical to community building and the typical college experience. So remarkably, this is the first time you've all been together in person for a traditional, formal academic exercise. As you may recall, in August of 2020, our new student convocation took place virtually. So you watched on YouTube, at least I hope you did, as we welcomed all of you to our academic community. Now, despite these challenges, you have thrived. In the classroom and beyond, you've taken advantage of everything that Duke has to offer and what it means to be an educated and engaged citizen of the world. During your time at Duke, you've built new connections and you've developed new traditions. And you absolutely have played more spike ball than any class before or since. Looking forward, we have no idea what the world will bring. As the politically turbulent and violent events of this year have illustrated, we live in unpredictable times. But on this point, our centennial may be instructive and I think encouraging. 100 years ago, the graduating class of 1924 similarly had no idea what lay before them. They didn't know that just 6 months later, James B. Duke would sign his indenture of trust that turned their alma mater, Trinity College, into our university. And that stroke of Mr. Duke's pen not only transformed our institution, it also secured for the class of 1924 a legacy as the last students to graduate from Trinity. And in a fascinating turn of history, the class of '24 also gave us our alma mater, dear old Duke. But they had no idea of that at the time. Indulge me in a minute with the story. Trinity in 1924 celebrated the completion of studies with a traditional lowering of the class flag. You see, LDOC has come a long way from flag lowering to sway wheel on the quad, right? Well, during their flag lowering ceremony, the Trinity class of 1924 sang a student-composed hymn to Trinity that had been catching on around campus at the time. And it began, "Trinity, thy name we sing. To thee our voices raise, they raise. To thee our anthems ring in everlasting praise." As an aside, the May 14th, 1924 issue of the Trinity Chronicle that published for the first time this hymn also reported an interesting vignette of campus life at the time. Quote, "One student bet another that he couldn't put a billiard ball in his mouth. Result, it had to be punched out with a cue stick." Like I said, Duke students, you've come a long way in 100 years. Following the unforeseen creation of Duke University, an adaptation of that hymn to Trinity was officially adopted in 1925 as our alma mater. But of course, the word Trinity had to be replaced. And as Duke is just one syllable, and Duke University is 6, they went with, that's right, dear old Duke. At a time, let's remember, when dear old Duke was not even 1 year old. Although our traditions have evolved with time and we no longer raise and lower flags at the beginning or the end of the academic year, we do sing Dear Old Duke together at formal events and gatherings, and we'll sing it together again today at the end of this ceremony. And whether performed by a pep band, a choir, or as it rings from the carillon every Friday evening, our alma mater symbolizes the enduring connections to Duke that unite us as a community, whether we're here together or apart. And I hope it will always remind you, now that you know its origin story, that while we cannot foresee the future, while we have no idea of what our next day or year or decade or century will bring, like Trinity College, we can look forward to grander times ahead. I hope that throughout your lives, however far your fates may bear you, you will forever feel at home at this place. And whatever the future brings, and I hope not swallowing a billiard ball on a bet, perhaps when you hear that familiar melody of Dear Old Duke, you'll pause to reflect on what this university, what its people have meant in your life. Congratulations to the great class of 2024.